Okay, Christa, you recently wrote an article called Sleep and Mental Health. I recently went through a sermon series on rest, and in my research, I found that over the last few decades, the amount of sleep that people get has actually decreased from 8 hours to a little over six. And then it gets crazier. According to a World Economic Forum that I read, the US lost the equivalent of around 1.2 million working days per year due to people not getting enough sleep. So I've really set this question up for you well. What inspired you to write this much needed article on sleep and mental health?
Well, like you, I've read a lot of the statistics about how much sleep people are losing and how much just over in general, how much less that we get. And it's really interesting that you say that. I think you said something about the average being about 6 hours now. And in my research, I found that people who go 10 days with just 6 hours of sleep, it is equivalent to someone who goes 24 hours like in a row without sleep. The impact is the same. So when you hear that and you, or when you read that and you realize like how detrimental it is, and I know a lot of people who only get 6 hours of sleep, it's kind of scary. And then when we see just like the impact that has on your whole life, like your ability to even just function in the everyday, to really show up in your relationships, I think it's a big deal. So yeah, it was an article that I really enjoyed writing.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about the article. Like, who did you have in mind when you wrote this article?
Definitely my clients, but just people in general. Like, I mean, everyone. Sleep impacts every part of it impacts your physical health. It impacts your mental health. I think it's information that anyone needs to know. I don't think most people know about how important sleep is to the functions of our body and our ability to just function in every day. So, I mean, I think anybody benefits from reading this article.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of those effects that it has to physical health. And then sometimes we often forget about the importance of our mental health when it comes to sleep.
Yeah.
Why is sleep so important to our mental health?
There's several ways that sleep impacts our mental health. One of the ways is, if you're familiar with the parts of your brain, there's a part of your brain that operates, it's called the amygdala. It operates like a smoke alarm. It's in charge of your fight or flight response. And when the research has shown that if you lack sleep, your amygdala is hypersensitive, and your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain that has a lot to do with reasoning, it is also does not function. So if you think about it like that, if you have a smoke alarm, and I don't know, like I've been in different houses where the smoke alarm like could be really sensitive. Like you could light a candle, or like for me cooking bacon, I end up with a lot of smoke when I cook bacon. It would always set the smoke alarm off. And that's kind of the same idea. Like when you don't have sleep, your amygdala is like hypersensitive, and it's like when you just light the candle and there goes the smoke alarm. Like you didn't need the smoke alarm to go off at that time. And then at the same time, your prefrontal cortex isn't there to balance out, your amygdala the way that it needs to be. So that's one way. Another way is just that when we sleep, it helps us process our emotions from the day. We actually go through a part of sleep called REM sleep, or REM sleep. And during REM sleep is when we dream. And when we dream, we actually are able to, it helps us digest all of the emotions that happen during the day. And a lot of times it's emotion we don't even think about, like when somebody cut you off in traffic and all those little things that build up during the day that we don't think much about. When we get the rest that we need, we're able to, kind of digest that emotion. Also, it benefits our mental health just in the sense that we're just able to cope with things. Your ability to cope with life is just not as strong if you haven't gotten the rest that you need. There's a lot of research that shows that almost every mental disorder has something to do with a disruption to sleep. So it's definitely very important to your mental health.
Yeah, I tend to not forget about the people who cut out in front of me in traffic. But anyway, that's not for today. I love that analogy you give about the smoke alarm. That's something I think we could remember. So let's dive into the article a little bit if we can. Um, what are some of these roadblocks that can get in the way of a good night's rest and a good night's sleep?
I think it goes two ways. Some of it is stuff that we just have to be more intentional. But then also, like, I have a lot of clients who their stress is so high and they want to sleep, but they're so stressed out that it makes it difficult to sleep. And then I noticed that there are people that it's just you have to be intentional about having healthy sleep habits. And that can be really hard to do. Like the people who are on their phone in their bed, that makes it hard to sleep. Um, I think too, just the busyness of life. Like, what are we going to cut out? I mean, I've even heard people say, I'll sleep when I die. Well, you're going to die a lot sooner if you don't get the sleep that you need. So that doesn't really work out for you. But I know too, like a lot of people, like just experiencing anxiety and stress can be a real roadblock to sleep. And then it's kind of like a cycle, because then you lose sleep and then anxiety and stress becomes even bigger. And then it just keeps kind of going around and around and around. So I think definitely self-care is helpful in that. But yes, those are just some of the roadblocks.
Yeah, that's good. And so you mentioned a lot of these roadblocks in the article, but you also give us some combating tools that can help us. So what are some of the most important steps we can take to increase our chances of really having a good night's sleep?
Yeah, I think it's important to understand how your body goes to sleep. And there are three really important things that we need for our body to be able to trigger the chemicals that help us go to sleep. And one of them is light. Melatonin is triggered whenever the light starts to go away. So when it's 8, 9, 10 o'clock and you still have all the lights on in your house, that isn't letting your body know that it's time to go to sleep. Also screens. I think turning off the TV and all the screens, I know that it's going to sound crazy to some people, but an hour before bedtime is helpful. And then turning the lights down in the house is also helpful. The other thing that triggers our body for sleep is a drop in core body temperature. So turning the air down at night. I mean, I am one of those that my house is like 75 degrees during the day, and that's really crazy for some people, but we do turn it down to below 70 at night. So that can help everyone be able to trigger to their bodies. Also, doing something like taking a bath, not only is that relaxing and will help you sleep, but even if you're taking a bath in hot water, it does drop core body temperature. And that's going to be helpful in allowing people to go to sleep. I always tell people a bedtime routine, like just signal to your body with the same routine every night. My routine is typically a bath and then a cup of chamomile or lavender tea. Maybe sometimes reading a book that is not going to get me revved up or anything like that. I think having the same bedtime and the same wake up time every day is very helpful. I know a lot of people feel like that's difficult to do, but if you can get your body on a routine like that where it knows what's coming, I think it's really helpful in letting ourselves kind of calm down for going to sleep.
That's good stuff. So tell us a little bit more, maybe your last piece of advice you'd give someone who is struggling with their sleep and its relationship with their mental health. And some of those things that you mentioned in the article, people will turn to alcohol because they think that's going to give them good sleep and all these other different types of things. So for that person who's tried all these things, they're still struggling. What's a good piece of advice you can give them?
Yeah, first, I would love to address alcohol because people think alcohol will put them to sleep. And alcohol does make someone drowsy, but it's actually like the same as like being put under anesthesia. It's like mild anesthesia. So you're not getting restorative sleep. You may easily fall asleep, but it isn't doing the restorative work that your body needs. to function. It's actually a state of being sedated.
Mhm.
So even though alcohol may make you feel tired, it's not worth it. Like, you're not gaining anything. You might as well just stay up and get things done. Like, it's not going to be helpful for you. I think my advice is to be really intentional. Like, if you care, if you're watching this, I'm assuming that you care about yourself, your mental health and your physical health, then you have to be really intentional, just like going to the gym or eating well. Like, if you care about your body and you care about your relationships, then you will do what you need to do to get the sleep that you need. And I think that there are all kinds of healthy ways to try to get sleep. From what I've read, it is better for you if you can learn how to fall asleep in a natural way versus using medication. I understand that sometimes medication does have to be the option, but I would encourage you to try being intentional and maybe using some of the recommendations that were in the article before going that route.
That's good. I think the key thing there is healthy routines at night. I mean, this is something we teach our kids.
Right.
You know, you got to have a healthy routine at night, and I think that's indicative for us also as adults to do. So that's very good.